Economic Development Seminar. This is not the first time the Republic of Korea ambassador is coming here. I recall about 4 years ago, uh, the ambassador came and he did a similar lecture. So it's a pleasure to have him. This is a different ambassador, so to speak, here. And during this program, the Korean embassy accredited to Monrovia, Liberia, will also be unveiling its honorary consul. And so it's a good history event for all of us to watch. I know some Liberians have asked about visiting South Korea. Let me see how many of you have been to South Korea. Just raise your hand. How many of you? From this side. How many of you? Okay. So none of you have been to South Korea. How many of you from this side have visited Asia? Just Asia. One. Which country? China. Okay. So one. All right. Let me ask on this side. How many of you on this side had the opportunity to South Korea? I mean, somebody got to have gone to South Korea. I mean. I see you. You. It looks like you've been to South Korea. Listen. Professor, you've been to South Korea? Okay. All right, good. At least we got one person who has that been. You're giving me a big hand of applause. South Korea is a very beautiful country. The opportunity to visit South Korea, a couple of years ago. Wonderful country. They speak Korean, but a lot of people speak English as well. All right, that's good. So those would be some of the things that the ambassador would be South Korea. I went to Busan. It's another city in South Korea. Busan, great country. So that's why we are here. So please, as we conclude, I think we are all set now. This seminar is going to be live on the internet, all of our platforms, as you can see. So people here as well as outside will be watching. So like to project everything that we do here at the university so the larger global community out there can certainly have an opportunity to see what we're doing. Thinking that in the next few weeks, we'll be rolling a number of these lecture series, talk post-election academic experience. We hope to invite other speakers who will come to talk about the recent election and our transition process. We also hurry this semester within the next month. You'll be taking your final exam very soon. Our graduation is on schedule. Let me see how many of you graduating this year from this side. How many of you finishing college? Good. So the application form for commencement will be out very soon. We anticipate a larger class than the last commencement because there were many who couldn't graduate, so we'll get a big number. So when the Korean ambassador arrives, I would urge you all to please rise to receive it. I think he's here now. Is it the ambassador was once he arrived, you will hear that. All right. Yeah, so we just recognize the presence of the Honorary Consul. Please acknowledge it with a hand of applause, even though, yes. So at some point during this program, you will formally be introduced. He will formally be introduced by Excellency, and he will say a few words to you students and others. I know after this program, there will be a lot of high interest in visiting Korea. Yeah, it's a great country, very great country. Good country. They have one of the biggest airports in the world. Yeah, I almost got lost in our airport. So fantastic. Yeah. So, and the thing about the ambassador, he's resident in Nigeria and has oversight responsibility for Liberia and what and Ivory Coast and Sierra Leone. So he's kept of his oversight countries. We are hoping that as we consolidate our democracy, maintain our peace, try to be like Korea, they will finally send an ambassador that will be resident here. But in the meantime, at least we have, an honorary consul now that will be helping us. So when you want to go Korea now, you don't have to suffer. And it's, I think Korea and Nigeria has a very good relationship. Many, many years, 60s. Some of the things you see happen in Korea, so we have a relationship. So this is what we have the so just stay, okay, ladies and gentlemen. to please rise momentarily as he enters. Please rise. His Excellency is here. And give him a big hand of applause as he and his delegation comes in. Yes. We have enough room in this building, so please. Yes. Thank you. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen, and give the ambassador another big hand of applause. Very good. Thank you, students. Thank you. We just like to officially commence this very important seminar on economic development as experienced in the Republic of South Korea. Just before the ambassador and his entourage walked in, we were doing a little bit of housekeeping concerning how many in the audience have visited South Korea. And the majority of people here have not visited South Korea. If this was an election, there will be no second round. Those who have not visited would have won. But you don't have to physically visit a country before you get to experience the country, correct? One of the ways you can get endeared and interested and fascinated about the country is about reading the country, hearing about the country, getting to know its culture from books and others. And many of you students here have read world history, global history, and you have had the opportunity at least to learn something about South Korea. But today, the ambassador and his entourage are here, and they will deepen your knowledge and understanding. Hopefully, after this seminar, you will have a fuller appreciation of the Republic of South Korea. Okay? My name is Norris Twe. I'm the Vice President for University Relations, and I will be your MC. This program is very short, so short that we didn't need to print, a formal program. All right, so there will be official welcome remarks, and immediately after that, the ambassador will present the seminar to you, and then after the presentation, there will be a Q&A from you, the audience, particularly our students, and then we will certainly make our transition into observing nutrition. I know some of you have already observed nutrition, but you'll be observing nutrition for the very second time, okay? So at this stage, I will ask you to rise as we commence by the singing of the Liberian national anthem. And we'd like somebody in the audience who got a better singing voice and to raise it. Anybody want to lead the singing of the national anthem? Maybe at this. Can you sing? All right, please. Liberia, our hill. Yes, we fight Congress united we shall just sing. Congress united, long live thy people. Jesum of liberty back come. Jesum of glorious liberty back come. Please remain standing as we're supposed to sing the national anthem of the Republic of Korea. So we ask, you want to sing it? Oh, see, the ambassador has asked your indulgence that we shall skip the singing of the national. So please sit down, ladies and gentlemen. We have to pay homage to diplomacy, right? All right, but it's very beautiful. It's a fantastic song. So, as I said, I visited South Korea 3 years ago, and my perception changed. When I was coming back, I bought a book written by a journalist about the economic development of South Korea, and I always refer to that book. So certainly it's a great country. I also now at this stage would like to invite somebody. One of the reasons, in order to participate on this program today, you must have visited South Korea. Not during the Q&A, but all the speakers who will speak here must have visited South Korea. If you haven't visited South Korea, then you're not eligible to speak here. But ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to call my colleague, Professor Wiyade Kobabole, Vice President for Institutional Development Planning, who had the privilege of visiting South Korea as well. Please welcome her as she welcomes the ambassador.
Good afternoon. I've already been introduced. My name is Wiyade Kobabole, and I'm your Vice President for Institutional Development and Planning. And it's a tall order because it takes into consideration our international partnerships, our grants, contracts, staff development, faculty development, and the physical development of FENDO. But our purpose here today is to welcome one of our partners to share with us some knowledge about the economic development of Korea. VP Tue said, before you stand up here, you must have visited Korea. I'm proud to say I was the forerunner of his visit. So I visited Seoul, a number of other cities. I was very impressed with the Sangkungwon University, which is the oldest in South Korea. But most impressive was the fact that South Korea is not as endowed with resources like we have. And I'm sure His Excellency will tell you. So the Samsung phone, is that it? Is that it, Excellency, or the Nokia? Samsung. All of this IT and high tech you will find. Of course, you will also find preservation of a number of things. I saw a 100-year-old tree at that university, and it was sometimes a classroom. So Korea, we have a lot to learn. It is my distinguished honor and pleasure to welcome, first and foremost, you save the best for last. A young son who's been keeping me on my toes between Nigeria and Ghana and Liberia. You're most welcome. Other members of the team from Nigeria. A few weeks ago, we were honored to have met His Excellency, who introduced to us the Honorary Consul of the Republic of South Korea to Liberia. Excellency, we're pleased to have you. Chase Seti, he's one of us. He works here, lives here with us, and we know there are lots of things we can do together. Our President, Excellency, Dr. Julius Nelson, is not able to be at this program because he has to be in Maryland County, where he's chairman of the board of trustees of the William V.S. Tubman University, and they are having graduation ceremonies. So he has a role to play. He left today for Maryland. He asked me to bring you warm greetings from the board of trustees, the UL cabinet, members of the faculty, staff, and students. We have a collective group of people here today, graduate students, faculty, and undergraduate students. So we'll show that you have prepared yourself very well for this exchange. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I'm sure the students from IBB are poised to have a very healthy exchange with His Excellency. So it is my distinguished honor and pleasure to welcome all of you, Excellency Kim Yong-chie, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, accredited to Nigeria, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. To have such a high portfolio in the diplomatic service tells you that you are ready to receive enough knowledge to be shared. Your Excellency, you're most welcome again to the University of Liberia.
Thank you, Vice President, for warmly welcoming us today. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to visit the university always. Why? The future is in the university. How you study in the university is, the critical factor in deciding your future. Today, I am here to discuss about South Korea, my motherland. South Korea is located far east of Eurasian landmass. We are surrounded by Japan and China, mainly. We Koreans have lived there for 5,000 years ago. And we all know that, according to science and archaeology, that all humans originate from Africa. According to their studies, about 70,000 years ago, a couple of hundred humans migrated to Arabian Peninsula. From there, people began to spread to the world. So, my ancestors basically came from Africa. So we are all brothers and sisters in that regard. So somehow, my ancestors took work from Africa up to Korean Peninsula. One time I calculated, if you walk 10 kilometers per day, maybe it takes around 1,000 days for us to reach from Africa to Korea by just walking 10 kilometers per day. It's an incredible journey. But somehow our ancestors were able to survive, eventually settled down on the Korean Peninsula. It's a great achievement, I think. From there, our ancestors lived very well, and then we have kept our culture, our history, our food, everything, and then we are one people, including North Korea. But in the last 200 years ago, we Koreans went through a lot of ups and downs, especially in the 19th century, the Europeans came to Asia, like Dutch came, Portuguese came, British came, and French came. And they colonized many of Asia and Africa and etc. Due to the upheavals, many countries went through a lot of sufferings and etc. Like many countries in Africa, and then our ancestors, in my personal view, didn't handle the dramatic changes that took place in the 19th century. So Korea became behind. So we became a colony of Japan. So Japan ruled Korea for about 35 years. And then at the end of the Second World War, due to geopolitics, Americans came to Korea. Soviet, now Russia, came to Korea. And they decided to divide Korea into two. That's how we have two Koreas now, South Korea and North Korea. South Korea belonged to US camp. North Korea belonged to Soviet communist camp. And then from that time, we began to diverge. We all know the history, the collapse of communism and etc. So, and then the development of capitalism, market economy, and democracy. So luckily, South Korea belonged to the right camp, so to speak. And the North Korea, unfortunately, belonged to unfortunate camp. So now, I think South Korea, I don't know exact numbers, but at least 50 times richer than North Korea. 50 times. Even though North and South Korea are exactly same people. Exactly same people. They use the same language, their culture is same, everything is the same. Except political system. I think which tells a lot about economic development. So in order to have economic development, we need to have a right political system. Right? That's what I want to say first. And secondly, in order to have economic development, we need to have a right leadership, the political leadership. Fortunately, my country had the right political leadership until now. But we have a lot of challenges. How do we have challenges right now? We Koreans do not produce babies. So our population will decrease. First, it's a serious problem. In Africa, in some countries, they are having too many people, in a way. Too many babies, it's a huge problem for some African countries. But for us, in Korea, we do not produce babies. Young people like your generation, they are not married. First. Secondly, even if they are married, they do not produce babies. Even if they produce babies, they have only one baby. So it's a huge challenge. And then we have huge challenges in other areas, economically, socially, politically, and etc. At the same time, we have a serious problem with North Korea. Even today, before I came here, I watched the CNN. North Korea tested some missiles even today, right? Did you see? Yeah. Oh, I saw it on CNN. So North Korea is developing nuclear weapons. North Korea is developing ballistic missions. One time North Korea said, oh, our rockets can even reach to America. So we have a big problem with North Korea. Why? North Korea is our brothers. But at the same time, our threat. So how to handle North Korean affairs is critically important for us. One of the challenges, as I said, no, I didn't say much about Korea's economic development because we have secret specialists here. So I'll ask him to talk about the secrets, how Korea made economic development. I am not an economic specialist. I'm a more foreign service officer. So I think for you, it's better to listen to economic specialists. We have today half French, half Korean businessman. He's a high-ranking vice president in one of the biggest Korean companies. Number 2 company or number 3 company, depending on, but one of the, just behind Samsung is the biggest company in Korea. Samsung is the biggest company. Second biggest company, maybe Hyundai Motors, the Motors, or SK Telecom. They are competing in order to be number 2 in Korea. So I will ask him to say something about Korean economic situation, economic, policy, how Korea achieved economic development, particularly from a third party's point of view. I am Korean, so when I talk about Korean affairs, I think I am biased, right? So I will ask the SK Vice President to come forward and then make about 5 to 10 minutes presentation to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. President, it's a pleasure to meet you. This microphone is working if I hold it here. And Professor, and ladies and gentlemen, yes, I think you would have had 2 questions. The first one being, this guy doesn't really look Korean. What is he doing here? And I think you partially answered that. I am a French national, but deep inside there's a Korean guy yearning to break free. That's the first thing. And then the second question is, well, we came here to listen to His Excellency. So why is this guy now grabbing the microphone? I'm also asking myself the same question because you're incredibly knowledgeable about your country, but I shall try my best. As you have kindly introduced me, I am Vice President at SK, and SK is South Korea's 2nd largest conglomerate. And I also advise my chairman, his name is Chit Dae-won, who is also chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, so-called KCCI. And the KCCI is South Korea's most established chamber of commerce. It's got 73 regional chambers, and it has more than 220,000 companies, both public and private. So it's a rather large organization that is the voice for South Korean industry. Now, our group chairman, he likes to joke that SK stands for South Korea. It does not. But I think in many ways, SK is the perfect illustration of South Korea's post-war economic success and diversification. Its transition from devastation after the Korean War, and you touched upon that, Your Excellency, to becoming the world's 10th largest economy and the world's 4th or 5th exporter of manufactured goods. And I'd like to start off with just a small observation, if I may. I've traveled to 22 African countries this year, and it's been an absolute privilege. In July, I also attended the the mid-year coordination meeting in Nairobi for the Africa Union. And on this occasion, I attended a session that was hosted by His Excellency Albert Muchanga, a Zambian national who's Commissioner for Trade and Industry at the Africa Union. And he made an observation that I want to share with you. It's slightly provocative. It's not my observation, it was his observation. And he commented that the populations of China and Africa, populations of China and Africa are roughly comparable. Population of China, roughly 1.4 billion individuals. Population of Africa as a whole, 1.2 billion individuals. Yet when you look at China's share of global trade, it stands roughly at 30%. Global share of trade and services, trade in goods and services. Whereas in Africa, it's closer to 3%. So there is a big divide here, and he is inviting us to find a solution to this. And he believes, and he made that point very clearly, that the issue at hand here is one of product. There is a productivity gap in Africa that needs to be resolved, which brings me to Korea, because Korea's economic miracle, and you've touched upon this, Your Excellency, its diversification, its fantastic growth, has everything to do with productivity and rising productivity. And South Korea's labor productivity has been the highest of the OECD for the last 25 years. That can sink in for a second. The highest labor productivity of the OECD. Okay? And I believe that this actually explains how Korea was able to transition from a broadly agrarian society at the end of the Korean War in 1953 to becoming this powerhouse for the fourth industrial revolution. And as you know, Korea today is a leader in the fourth industrial revolution. It manufactures cell phones, it manufactures electric vehicle batteries, biopharmaceuticals, and you name it, okay? And actually, coming back to my company now, SK, productivity is very much the story of SK. SK itself was established in 1953, the year that the Korea War came to an end. At the time, it was established as a very humble textile company. I believe it had a total of 7 broken machines that it inherited from the Japanese occupation. Yet, in 1980, it was able to acquire the state-owned Korea Petroleum Corporation. Think about that, a small, humble textile company that's basically taking over the National Oil Corporation of Korea. In 1994, my company then acquired the Korean telecoms company, the National Telecoms Company, which is now known as, you mentioned it earlier, SK Telecom. And in 2012, it acquired LG Electronics, which it renamed SK Hynix. And SK Hynix is today the world's second largest manufacturer of memory chips. Again, quite a sizable operation. And today, and this is actually true, there can be a debate as to whether we're the second or the third. But SK is the most diversified of all Korean conglomerates. Oil and gas, renewable energy, petrochemicals. It's in ICT, in telecoms, it manufactures electric vehicle batteries. It just signed a huge partnership with Ford in the United States to co-produce some 30 gigawatt hours of production in electric vehicle batteries in the United States. It's also a big player in the LNG and the renewable space, which includes hydrogen. And it's making a name for itself at the moment in biopharmaceuticals. To give you some numbers, just to explain how big the structure is, the company revenues last year were more than $150 billion. So not as big as Samsung, but definitely bigger than Hyundai. And the company continues to drive innovation and growth. It has a strategic focus today on 4 key business sectors, and it's constantly evolving. It's pushing today in advanced materials. It's doing a lot of green initiatives. It's pushing into digital technology and also biopharmaceuticals. And as we have continued to grow and to develop our operations, we have had to build incredible supply chains across the entire world, which is now bringing us to Africa. because a lot of the resources and a lot of the energy that we need to power the fourth industrial revolution, and remember, Korea is a leader in the fourth industrial revolution, can be found right here on the African continent. Think of electric vehicle batteries, for example. We produce the world's most high-end and energy-dense batteries, and we need cobalt, manganese, we need lithium, we need copper, and all these resources can be found right here in Africa. So we are very attracted to the formidable growth trajectory of the African continent, and we're exciting to see a lot of political momentum today around integration. I'm thinking of the AFCFTA today, which is promising to create, I believe, a $1.6 trillion market by 2050. And if you think about that for a second, that is roughly equivalent to the European Union today. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop talking about SK because I didn't come here to pitch my company. But I'd just like to say a couple of words about what has propelled Korea in this development. And the story of SK and the story of South Korea is one of industrial upgrading through the development and diffusion of technology. And technology is absolutely essential here. The story of SK and the story of South Korea is one of a constant movement towards higher productivity sectors and value chains and highly skilled, better paying jobs, from textiles to biopharmaceuticals, from crude oil extraction to EV battery manufacturing. So there's this constant movement and this constant upgrading within the Korean economy. And the story of SK is similar to that of other Korean conglomerates. Just a quick question, who's got a Samsung phone here? Please raise your hand. All right, so we have a lot of Samsungs. I'm guessing the rest are Apple, or I'm not too sure. But I think you will be surprised to hear that Samsung was established in 1938 by a gentleman called Lee Byung-chul, and it was established as a dry goods store in the city of Daegu. A dry goods store exporting noodles, dried fish, vegetables, and fruits to China. So if you think about this for a second, from dried fish to the best foldable phones on the market, and this is the story of Samsung, the story of SK, the story of Samsung, the story of Hyundai. It's a similar story. It's one of industrial upgrading through the constant diffusion and improvement of technology, like I said. So, and I'm going to wrap it up here. There is a proven correlation for all our economists here today between economic growth, diversification, and productivity. To put things in very simple words, if you become more efficient at doing something, and if you become more productive at doing one task, you therefore have more time to dedicate to doing other tasks, perhaps higher value tasks. And the experience and the skills that you develop on the one task can then be transferred to doing other tasks. This is what we mean by the diffusion and the upgrading, okay? These skills and these experiences can be brought from sector to sector, to industry and so on, which is why all of Korea's biggest companies are conglomerates. They don't just do one thing, they do multiple things. Electric vehicle batteries, biopharmaceuticals, ICT, renewable technology, etc. And so to finish my my remarks here, I would say you simply cannot build a well-balanced, efficient, diversified, and high-end economy if you do not do well in terms of productivity. And that's exactly what I think Albert Muchanga was trying to get at the AU summit in Nairobi earlier this year. And I cannot agree with him more. What I'd like to say is that actually Korea is very motivated now to partner with its African stakeholders, with its African friends. And I believe that you've heard it yourselves from His Excellency just a couple of minutes ago. There's huge opportunities that can bring together African nations including the beautiful country of Liberia and South Korea, because we are natural partners. As I've explained already, all the resources that are required to power the fourth industrial revolution can be found right here in Africa. There are huge markets in Africa, huge markets for hungry consumers. And there's a lot of exciting opportunities that can bring together the African continent and South Korea. So that's what I had in mind for my quick remarks, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
So, do we have a Q&A session, or I ask the Honorary Consul to say, okay?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the two presenters a bigger hand of applause in the South Korean style. Okay, so we will certainly open this seminar to questions. Our students here, let me warn you, ask some very difficult questions. So I know you came adequately prepared. But there is a lot of this program, the presentation of the Honorary Consul, and let's get that out of the way, right? So that when we go in the Q&A, we just go and move on. So again, let me invite you, Your Excellency, to please come and unveil to us what you have brought for us. Thank you.
Today, we had the opening ceremony for our Honorary Consul in Liberia. He's a very successful businessman. He has a cement factory. He has a steel factory. He has a renewable factory. He hires currently more than 2,000 Liberians. He has factories in Liberia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and they are now entering into Cameroon and other African countries. If you raise good questions to him, I think you'll find a chance to be employed in his company. Okay, let me introduce our new Honorary Consul, Jasprit Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished faculty members, His Excellency Ambassador Young Chae Kim, esteemed guests, and my dear fellow students. Before reading my speech, let me just tell you guys a bit about my life before I became an Honorary Consul. I came to Liberia in 1981 with my mother and my brother. So my father was already here trying to establish himself. So I stayed here till 1990. I did my schooling here. From here, after the war, I moved to Togo to continue my education. I stayed there a couple of years, then moved to Ghana, stayed there a couple of years, came back to Liberia, and finished my graduating from St. Patrick's. So this was about 95, 96. Then we had a war again in between. Stayed here, got involved in my father's business, then went to Canada for my further university education. I came back and returned in 2003. So since 2003, I've been with my father, helping him do the business. Let me introduce myself. The madam also introduced me as Jay Sethi. I'm also known as Jasprit Singh. My father is Paul Sethi, and he's the owner of Sethi Brothers, and I'm the managing director of Sethi Brothers since 2003. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this was a bit brief about my life, but let me start with a professional speech. I stand before you today to share the story of my journey, one that began with a leap of faith and has led to remarkable achievements. I I already told you guys I'm the managing director for Steady, but let's move on there. When I arrived to Liberia to join our business, I was filled with a sense of excitement and curiosity. The vibrant culture, the warmth of its people, and the untapped potential of this beautiful nation ignite a fire within me. I knew that I had to contribute to its growth and development, and that is precisely what I set out to do. With sheer determination and an unwavering belief in the power of hard work, I embarked on the challenging path of entrepreneurship. My father founded this business in 1980, and henceforth I joined him in 2003. He has always been an idol to look upon to. With his guidance, I started from humble beginning and gradually building it into a thriving enterprise. It was not an easy journey, but my passion for progress and my unwavering commitment to success propelled me forward. Today, I'm proud to say that our business has not only flourished, but has also become a catalyst for change in Liberia. Today, we have manufacturing business in steel, cement, and plastic, which is the key foundation to industrialization. Through our manufacturing industries, we have not only created job opportunities for countless individuals, but also injected vitality into the local economy. By investing in the country, we have demonstrated our unwavering faith in its potential and have become a beacon of hope for others seeking to make a difference. But our commitment extended beyond more economic impact. We have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of empowerment. By providing training and education to our employees, we have not only enhanced their skills, but also instilled a sense of pride and ownership in their work. We firmly believe that investing in people and upcoming young graduates like you is a key to sustainable development. And our employees and their families. We have strived to bring new manufacturing industries, create more jobs, and uplift the lives of every individual. Moreover, our journey is far from over. As we amalgamate with the Republic of Korean government, our opportunities have ascended further. The Korean government has its ties with Liberia, with Liberian government from a long time. My ambassador and his government are committed to maintain strong bilateral relations with Liberia. And at this time, they have gone one step further by again setting a footprint by opening a consulate of the Republic of Korea. The Korean government has always been a key partner in development and growth of the education sector in Liberia, and it shall continue its support in the future as well. We will continue to invest in the country both in terms of education resources and human capital. Ladies and gentlemen, as I reflect upon my journey, I am filled with gratitude for the opportunity that Liberia has provided me. It is a nation brimming with potential, and it is up to us to unlock it. Together, we can build a future where every Liberian has a chance to thrive, where entrepreneurship and hard work are rewarded, and where the spirit of progress permeates every aspect of our society. In conclusion, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to this esteemed university for giving me the platform to share my story. In brief, I hope that my journey serves as an inspiration to all those who have dreams and ambitions. Let us embrace the power of hard work, resilience, and unwavering belief in the potential of Liberia. Together, we can create a bright future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I told you this is going to be historic, right? Let's give the Honorary Consul a big hand of applause. And let me also announce that this program is live on our website and our Facebook page. So others like you here are following through technology. We have, if you can see in this room, we have invested in the latest technology, the latest cameras as well. All of them are from South Korea, right? Okay. So you have heard the ambassador and the experts talk about how Korea as a country experienced this economic trajectory and remained there for a very, very long time, and is now the fastest growing economies in the world amongst highly developed market economies, right? So that's a message that we got. And the ambassador also said that Korea was able to achieve this growth because of a good political system, right? And then sustained political system gave rise to good political leadership. And he also made the point that Korea was fortunate to inherit the capitalist economic system from the United States. But then he also said that there was one Korea, but then there was a war that separated one Korea into two. And he said, fortunately, he landed on the good side, South Korea, and then the North Korea. He made the point that North Korea was controlled by communism, the Soviet Union, you know, and their economic system did not do very well, whereas the South inherited the model economic system, capitalism. So that's it. But he gave one major challenge. He said they're having a challenge of what? Fertility. There's a decrease in terms of the number of people. All right. So that is just some synopsis of what the ambassador said. And of course, the businessman from SK expatiated quite well on the business side. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to learn about how one country called Korea and then South Korea managed to allow its state institutions to take actions that benefited its people. This particular lecture series has profound implications for us in Liberia, because several years ago, Liberia and Korea were similar. You know, in the 60s, in the 50s, if you read our history, we had some similarities, you know, but now if you compare Liberia and South Korea, no comparison. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you have a lot of questions, Your Excellency. So what we're going to do, we got several marks here. Our protocol people is going to give you a mark. If you want to ask a question, we'll take 3 questions at a time. And we want to be gender sensitive. We also want to have our students ask questions. So we'll go one here, another one here, and then you can, the ambassador and the businessman will respond. So let's go now. The floor is open. Let's, from the left-hand side, right here, we have a hand right here. Okay, please, what you do, tell us your name and whether you're a faculty, student, and then we'll go on the other side. All right?
Good afternoon. My name is Benedict Esaye. I'm the Director of Alumni Affairs and Engagement of the University of Liberia. Let me start with a commendation to the ambassador for the establishment of a consulate here in Monrovia. And congratulations to our newest diplomat on the block. You are welcome. My question is exactly to the Honorary Consul. We hear your success story, and you will agree with me that the key to nation building is investment in the human capital. University of Liberia is truly educational hub for this nation. What plans do you have to invest more in education to build a sustainable economic growth for Liberia?
All right, thank you very much. Anybody can pick up on that question within the context of this economic seminar. All right, we're gonna, yes, we got. Okay, you just gotta look at me so I can, tell you to recognize so that it's not, All right, please tell us your name and go quick. Just limit the comments and just go straight to the question because we don't have time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tua. My name is Gerald Tito from the IBB program.
Okay. Graduate school.
Yeah. So let me say thanks to the honorary ambassador for such a unique program. I'm grateful and alive to be here today to be a witness to such a occasion. But my question basically has to do with looking at the success story, the economic success story of Korea and the development without, looking at education, for example. So, a country like us, Liberia, cannot develop without education. So my question basically is, how can the people, the Republic of Korea, be able to tie education into development and helping Liberia to moving forward within that particular field that they have actually come to Liberia for?
Okay, education. How can education play a critical role in economic development?
Female. Female.
We're gonna go back to that, and then we'll come back. Anybody on the side?
Female.
Any female on the side? All right. A lot of the females play a great role in South Korea's development. Good. Anybody? Is there somebody we gotta move fast? Okay, good. We're going to the side. All right. We have so many males on the side. All right, good. There's a female right here, please.
Thank you very much. I'm student Asatu from the RBB. First thing, let me applaud you for the brilliant presentation. My question focused strictly on His Excellency presentation. Key thing I captured from your presentation has to do with the future is in the university, which of course I do agree with. So now, looking at your position as an ambassador to Liberia, how do you intend to create an exchange program where students from the University of Liberia will travel to South Korea and interact with students from there in order to promote so many transformational issues that will promote the both countries? Thank you.
Especially so that when I ask the question, how many of you been to South Korea? Virtually nobody raised their hand. So it's very important, Your Excellency. We're going to take one more question. This gentleman, let's go that quick so that we can.
Thank you to the presenters and to the faculty for organizing in partnership with the Embassy of Korea in Nigeria and covering Liberia and Sierra Leone. My name is Abdullah Randolph Kemokai, student of international relations with key concentration in global security. Honorable Ambassador, with the closeness of South Korea to North Korea, and with the huge disagreement in terms of alignment, South Korea being a capitalist country, North Korea being a communist or a socialist country, how are you managing with living and cooperation in considering yourself as a country with the best political system as compared to North Korea?
Good question. You're a very security student for you. Okay, Your Excellency, you can sit if you want to. All right, so it's good. So we got four. We're going to go back. Let's go ask the South Korean ambassador likes to take all the questions in stride. All right, let's take more questions. He's taking notes.
Thank you. My name is Joe David. I'm a student of economics at the university.
Okay, Joe.
So the last time I was in Beijing, I was in Beijing, and I was opportune to have met with the Commerce Minister of China, and I will place a question to him, and I would also love to place the same question to the ambassador, and it's about how China or how Korea, South Korea, can be able to help Liberia to be unpacked, because we listen to them all of the time. They were talking about how their country has made so many progress and how the country is kind of advanced. As we just listened to the ambassador here, he told us that the country is very advanced now. So how can South Korea help Liberia to at least be on similar path, if not similar path with South Korea, but at least to come close to South Korea?
All right, one more. Lessons learned. The ambassador said, good political system. South Korea has benefited from sustained political stability. Go ahead.
My name is Mo Doyuzina, student of the IBB. Well, as I listened to the ambassador, I was touched by his explanation regarding the one-child policy.
Yes.
That has, to some extent,
The low fertility rate,
supported that,
which is a challenge.
Yeah.
You got a solution for them?
Good. So I want to understand,
Okay.
I want to understand that given such situation like we all might live, that in terms of growth, the areas of cultural barriers tend to impede a lot of things. So considering this variable to be truth, I want to know how the South Korea manage with their system to ensure that the one-child policy takes effect. If they encounter any problem, how did they manage and how long did it take? My last question is, do you envision prospects for Liberia as a result of your engagement with the Liberian community?
How did you guys manage to bring this low fertility now, which is a challenge? And how do you envisage Liberia to copy you? Good. The questions are coming, Your Excellency. I told you the students can have so many questions. So let's take this first batch first. Okay? Good.
Thank you. Very interesting questions. I know the University of Liberia is the best university in Liberia, right? So you are the best in the country. In the sense, I understand in that way. So you are lucky in a way to be here instead of less fortunate universities. How education help economic development? It is obvious. Without education, we cannot achieve economic development. In Korea, when we began to develop our economy in the 1960s, 70s, we established a lot of vocational training high schools. The high schools focusing on agriculture, high school focusing on engineering, technology. We have high schools for commercial things like banking and etc. So many people went to vocational high schools instead of going to university. So they received training from a high school, and they started relatively low salary compared with the university graduate. But they quickly gained skills. So gradually their salary began to rise. And at the same time, from SETI brothers' point of view, they needed to skilled workers, right, in their factories. So if your university produce qualified and skilled graduate, it's good for his company. They can have a more skilled people in his factory. So it's and that if he thinks his company receives benefit from your university, thanks to a very good education, he will hire more people. So it's mutually beneficial. The development of your university, the development of Seti Brothers factory are helping each other. You have to understand their logic. If his company dies, no chance for you to find job opportunities, right? And then even if his company is succeed, the university cannot produce qualified graduate, his company suffers. So as a graduate students, you have to understand the relationship between education and industry. It's critical. My country did that. We coordinated very well between education and industry. That is the key. So industry itself is not deciding factor. I mean, the education is not deciding factor. Education and industry, their combination, their coordination, I think, is the deciding factor in Korea's economic development. And regarding exchange programs and study in Korea, we have several exchange and study programs currently running, but unfortunately, currently we do not have that kind of program in Liberia. But currently we have programs in Nigeria and in Sierra Leone. So from next year, we are planning to start a scholarship program for Liberian university students. So, don't clap, study harder. The screening process is very competitive. Why? My government provide airfare. My government provide tuition fee. My government provide housing. My government provide monthly allowance. My government provide even a health insurance. So each student, let's say you go to Korea for study, my government spend 50,000 US dollars per year to you. Right? It's not a small investment. It's a huge investment. And my government, we are going to increase our budget for education and other things for Africa in the coming years. So definitely there will be a good chance if we study harder. That's what I want to say. And we have now Honorary Consul here. So we want to develop our bilateral relations between Liberia and Korea to a higher level. So education is one of the areas we think we need to focus. That's why we are here. That's why we are here. And how Korea can help Liberia achieve economic development? I think now is a good time for us to start. President Ware made a concession speech very graciously. So we'll have a new president January next year, right? So we can have a fresh start. And at the same time, I want to say that, let's say professor visit Korea and study Koreans, study Korean economic development history, and then ask why Korea made it. Then I think the professor will figure out. In the process, we want to go together with Liberia. For example, we are going to have a project in agriculture, particularly rice production. Technology in rice production, Korea is world class. I was told the production in Korea is 5 times more than the production in Liberia, given the same size of land. So if Liberia successfully introduce Korean rice producing technology and know-how, etc., Liberian farmers, technically speaking, can produce 5 times more. It will help. It will help Liberia greatly. So one area is agriculture. We are thinking to focus. Regarding the fertility rate and etc., I cannot say my government policy right here, but the implication is clear. If Koreans do not produce babies, what is the solution? We need to have more people from outside. Eventually, it's not my government policy, it's my prediction. My prediction in the coming years will open wider for migration, for works, employment, for study, and etc. In order to fill in, shrinking population. But it's not an official government policy. It's just my prediction. My country may go in that direction. And then if your university produce qualified people, in future, definitely there will be a chance to find a job in Korea. I cannot promise. There is a chance. There is a chance. Regarding security, vis-a-vis North Korea, maybe we need to have a separate session for next time. It's such a complicated issue. In a way, South and North Korea relationship, in a way, more difficult, I say, than the Palestine and the Israel problems. Do you have any solution to that? Very difficult, right? Palestinian, Israel, the current ongoing Gaza problem. It's very difficult to find a solution. If you have a simple mind, maybe you can find a solution. But if you are sophisticated enough, you cannot say there is an easy answer. And so I want to finish and then we continue some Q&A.
Thank you, Excellency. Give him a big hand of applause for answering all of the questions. We're running out of time, but if you want to add anything to the questions that were asked to sort of throw light on something the ambassador said or left out?
Not really, and I think you provided some excellent answers to the question asked. I think most of the questions were touching upon the relationship between education and economic growth, with the exception of the question on fertility. And I'd like just to make a couple of observations, and I think this is something you said already, Your Excellency. The first point is, in 1953, Korea was utterly destroyed. Korea is not a country that has any plentiful natural resources. It doesn't have, natural resources. It doesn't have lithium. It doesn't have cobalt. It doesn't have gold. It doesn't have all these beautiful resources. And the forests of Korea were nearly almost entirely destroyed in 1953. So, as an existential concern, Korea had to invest in its people. That was the only resource that was available to Korea at the end of the Korean War in 1953. The second observation that I'd like to make, and I'm not an expert in Korean economic development history, but Korea's economic miracle was not left to chance. It was the product of intelligent design. Korea experimented with multiple political systems before it stabilized as the beautiful democracy it is today. It transitioned from colonialism to dictatorship to democracy with many different hybrids in between. But essentially what you had after the war was a system where the government would protect the growth of the big groups, the big Samsungs, the SKs, and the Hyundais. But as a counterpart to that, these groups had to invest very heavily in R&D. And in education. So that was incredibly important and one of the reasons behind this growth. So the Korean companies actually helped the government in its delivery of industrial policies and in the development of R&D, which is absolutely essential. And coming back to what I was saying before, R&D and productivity go hand in hand. And then the last thing that I would say is import substitution. And you might say, well, what's the relationship between import substitution and education? Well, once again, after the war, there wasn't much in Korea. Korea had to start from scratch and to develop very quickly. And I think the governments at the time decided that import substitution was a viable strategy to kind of procure the goods that were needed for the population. And so when you can't import the gray matter, you have to develop it in-house, which is also one of the reasons why Korea invested so heavily in its education and in its people. And initially, the strategy, I mean, if you look at the first Hyundai vehicles, they were terrible. They were vastly inferior to the vehicles produced in the United States, in France, or in Germany, definitely, or in Japan. But as you now know, Hyundais are some of the most beautiful and most reliable and gorgeous vehicles you can get today. There's even like the Genesis high-end models for Hyundai. So import substitution in the case of Korea was a very smart strategy, which helped promote education, R&D, and so on. So these are my three simple observations.
Well, let me ask you, we seem to be, especially in Liberia, getting the political question right. We're just on the cusp of another transition. We have gone through war. We have had successful elections. So we seem to be getting the politics right. What then is the biggest challenge to our countries in Africa? If we do get the politics right, there are global constraints like the WTO. You mentioned import substitution. We can't do those things now. So how can countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, manage to experience the economic growth that South Korea experienced in the 60s? The times have just changed.
Discuss. It's a fantastic question. Again, I'm no expert in Liberian economics and Liberian economic development history, but it seemed to me that Korea went through a very sensible and tried and trusted approach to its development, which focused first on agriculture initially, and so Korea today is a leader in the manufacturing of high-yield crops. And actually, some of the biggest companies, including Samsung, initially were in the business of producing rice. So you can't grow an economy if you can't feed your people. That was the first point. And then from there, Korea also worked on its infrastructure, on its roads, on its rail, on its connectivity, and that was also incredibly important. And so that is consistent with what I was talking about earlier. There's this constant process of upskilling and the diffusion of technology and moving from one sector to the next and moving up the value chain, which is incredibly important. And I think what we're, as Korean companies approach their African stakeholders, and I've been again to 22 different countries. I've joined mining delegations, for example, in a range of countries in Southern Africa and Central African too, including Congo and Zambia, etc. And one of the conversations that we're very eager to have is that we don't come here just to get the raw commodities. There's an opportunity here to build the supply chains directly in Africa for the processing, for the treatment of these raw materials, such that they can be exported, but that they can also be used within Africa.
Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And so, and I think your leaders in Africa today are taking the right direction. If you look at the AFCFTA, if you look at the excellent work that His Excellency Wangekelemene is doing to integrate the continent, to build these beautiful supply chains, efforts, for example, between Zambia and DRC to create supply chains for electric vehicle manufacturing, electric vehicle battery manufacturing. These are the sensible steps that you need to take. What's important to realize is that Africa has everything. If you wanted to build an EV in Africa, you have the rubber, you have.
You guys give me a big hand for that. Africa has everything. We have the people.
Yes.
We have the land. We have the resources. Unlike South Korea, they don't have no natural endowment like we do. So then what is the problem? Why can Africa experience this miracle? Is it really a miracle? I mean, what do we need to do?
Well, so once again, I think things are definitely moving in the right direction. And I've been looking at Africa for some time, but there seems to be real political momentum today behind integration, behind regional integration, behind trade. And what you're seeing in Africa today is the emergence of a new crop of leaders in many different jurisdictions and countries in Africa that are pro-business, that want to enact reforms, and that want to take this opportunity to raise the productivity of their supply chains, of their industries, but also to create a favorable environment for business. And we're seeing this from Zambia to Lesotho to very many different countries. And we hope in beautiful Liberia, which has, and I was just talking about this with the Vice President, a beautiful transition of power.
Yes.
And which betokens very stable and desirable democratic institutions. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we need to end on that positive note. I have to say we're running out of time. I think His Excellency's presentation, as well as the analysis that was just provided by our colleague from SK, certainly gave us something to be very optimistic about, correct? That we are beginning to see a pathway to economic development. Many African countries, as he said, and the evidence is true. Liberia, we are gradually, getting our politics right. So we need to invest in people. We need to make sure that we get the right training. He said it, the ambassador said that, Korea opted for vocational training of some of the important workers that, those companies that were started earlier on needed to work. So investment in education, in human capital, certainly has a higher rate of return than anything. So if there's anything that we as Liberians and Liberian need to learn, is we must keep investing in our people. We must keep making sure our political system works for us. Your Excellency, these students have a lot of questions. You want one more round? Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, he will come back again, okay? This was the first. He certainly will come back again. So I want you all to please give the ambassador and this burning question. We're going to only take two. We got plenty of hands, so I'll just do the mini mining ball, cash right by tape. Bam! Go ahead. Burning question.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. I'm Thomas Kaya. I work with the University of Liberia. I'm the director for university relations, but I study development economics, international economics for my master's. I found the South Korean story one of the most interesting case studies in development economics. What we often leave out is the role of the regime that did the planning of what we now call the South Korean economic miracle. It was done all by our military regime, where everything was planned. And to the extent that when the blueprint was shared with the West, they rejected it because it didn't fit their concept of competition in marketplaces and all the ideas we know about fair market. But the Korean back their plan because they believe in it. And even initial funding came not from the US, which was the biggest partner at the time, but it came from Germany, West Germany at the time. It took several years before Korean pushed for electoral democracy, which is now popular in the world. What can we learn from your country's experience about the tricky relationship between sustainable development and Western flavor electoral democracy?
All right, good. We're going to take one more last burning question from this side. The gentleman in the back there, the relationship between the neoclassical economic model that was favored by the West versus your own version of a developmental model. That clutch. How did you sustain that clutch and survive? Ask the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm student P. Borges Marverson from the RBB. My question goes to the ambassador, please. Or send your stay in Liberia. What have you benefited from Liberia most?
Okay. What have you benefited from
Liberia most?
What do you like? What have you enjoyed? Yeah. Okay, good. I think that's a better summary of it, right?
Thank you. These are very good questions for me. Economic development and democracy is a very political question. It's a very tricky question. I know, and at the same time, relevant question. Some democracies are not making economic development. Some authoritarian governments make economic development. But some democracies also make economic development. So what is the relationship between economic development and democracy? In Korea, if I tell my country's experiences, it's right. Korea used to be a military regime. Simply speaking, dictatorship. Under the dictatorship, Korea achieved economic development. It's true. But after we made the transition from military rule to civilian rule, which is of course a democracy, we still made economic development, right? So some people say in former days we used to have Washington consensus, Beijing consensus, whatever. But I cannot say simply that democracy makes economic development. I cannot say. But at the same time, I cannot say authoritarian regime makes economic development at the same time. So we need to have a further study regarding the relationship. But somehow Korea did make economic development under both the authoritarian government and the democratic government. It can be a good lesson to Liberia as well. You know? Regarding what I enjoy in Liberia, I myself personally, I served in South Africa as a minister. I was ambassador to Libya before. So this is my third posting in Africa. So I would say I served far north of Africa continent. I served far down, and then I'm now serving in the middle of Africa. Okay, so I think I know something Africa in terms of history, in terms of culture, and in terms of people. And I also visited many interesting places. I studied in the United States. I studied Pennsylvania State University, and I lived in Europe. I lived in Asia. So I saw many diverse cultures, diverse countries. But I found one thing. Deep down, we are all same. We have the same desire. Basically, I saw it everywhere. I want to teach my children in a proper way. I want to give my children better education. I want to live happily with my family, with my neighbors. We have the same desire and the same aspiration. It doesn't matter whether you are from Africa, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. That's what I found during my service in Africa. And then I cannot say particularly Liberia, but Liberia and Korea have uniqueness. Liberia has a special relationship with the United States, right? Korea also has a special relationship with America, right? So, normally speaking, Korea and Liberia have good relationship. Whether it's rainy, whether it's shiny, it doesn't matter. So still, when I am here, I feel very comfortable due to our historical connection with the United States. At the same time, I know that during the Cold War days, when we had a diplomatic competition with North Korea, Liberia always supported my country, South Korea. Always. Oh. I'm not making exaggeration. It's fact. You may ask your diplomat. You may ask your historian. They know. They know. They know. So we feel grateful to Liberian government and people for supporting us, particularly in our difficult times. So no, we have to pay back to Liberia. That's what I want to say to you. And then due to our program today, I have to finish here now. But at the same time, thank you very much for coming here. Your presence means a lot to me. And then as an old man also say some nagging to young people. Study hard, be faithful to your parents, be a good friend, something like that. Try to be industrious, always don't waste your time. I want to say, always read, practice writing, those things. Just don't spend your time idling, just watching something, So it's better to have some clear plan. And finally, habit. Make people. Habits make people. If you have good habits, you'll be a good person. If you have a bad habit, you'll be a bad person. It's true. It's true. If you keep your time very well, if you wait, let's say I decide to wake up at 6 a.m. every day. If you keep in that way, you'll be different person just in 1 year. In 1 year. So that's what I want to say for young people. I'm sorry for making a nagging statement, but as an old man, whenever I see young men, I have no choice but to say something like that. Thank you very much. Thank you for your coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You have given our students more than a food for thought. I know we are going to consume that other physical food, but the experience of your country is remarkable. And we are all proud that you could come here and educate us on how did your country succeed in experiencing development. From the last question, Thomas asked, it suggests that there are many roads to democracy. There are many roads to dictatorship, economic development. You can be a dictatorship and experience development. That's what happened early on in South Korea. You can also be a democracy and experience economic development. So there is a correlation, however, between democracy and economic development. Scholars have said countries that are highly developed when they experience democracy, they have a reduced likelihood of going back into other forms of government. We in Liberia have chosen the path of democracy. And we believe that your country's experience of development through democracy can work for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this seminar on development, especially our graduate students who are learning development, our economic students, but our general student body. We want to thank you. I know you have learned a lot. Don't stop there. As the ambassador said, let's read on, read, study, and develop a habit so that when the opportunity comes, we can certainly take a dive at it and hopefully we'll be successful. Congratulations. Please give the ambassador a big hand of applause. Your Excellency. Thank you very much. And so we're going to do a photo quick. We want to call the RBB students come. Your Excellency, we're going to take a quick picture. Yes. We're going to take a quick picture right here. And then the rest of you just, we have what we call item 13. So please. And if you want to take some pictures, just hang around.